Welcome back to the very first episode of AFL by Jellyman, episode 26 of Sports Tips by Jellyman. We've got the round one preview, the 2023 season preview for the AFL, being shot here on Wednesday, March the 15th, before the season launch on Thursday, March the 16th, seeing Carlton play Richmond as per tradition. Topics for the podcast, and then obviously moving forward as well. We've got the season predictions, team by team season preview, and then round one preview. And then we go into the 2022 most consistent players and the 2023 players that we'll be watching for each team. So rather than, looking at every single player across every single squad in terms of stats and player statistics and everything like that, we pick maybe 8 to 10 that we can really focus and hone in on. And make sure they're the ones hitting tips for us, essentially. And then topic 4 is best bets for the weekend ahead, or the round ahead. And obviously, just quickly, this podcast be shot on a Wednesday, essentially reviewing the round just gone and then previewing the upcoming round, mainly targeting sort of stats. Often with the AFL, the team lists aren't out until the day before the game. So Carlton and Richmond might be out at the moment. We'll have a quick look at that. But across the whole round, it's not like the NRL where they've got all the team lists out. But look, we'll crack into it. Season predictions. So we've only got Premiers, Brownlow and Coleman here, a favourite and a smoky for each. For the Premiers this year, our favourite, it's Brisbane. So they've got the squad to do it. They've made a couple of good additions, Dunkley and Gunston. Their younger players are getting better and better. They've got the squad to do it, which is the main thing. And I don't think they can keep them together for much longer. Because what happens when you're such a good team like Brisbane, and you see this with a lot of other squads, is players demand more money. You can't fill them into the salary cap. They go to another team as a marquee player, etc., etc. This year they've been able to get some good players in. But how long that will last, we're not too sure. And then our smoky is Sydney. So obviously Sydney lost in the grand final last year to Geelong quite convincingly. The reason why these two squads are going to be there at the end of the season is they'll win a lot of games throughout the season at home, at their home base. And then they don't mind. Brisbane don't like playing the MCG, but they still don't mind travelling to other states and everything like that. And they don't get too many games in those states specifically. Brisbane, Sydney, favourite smoky. Brisbane paying $7. Sydney are paying $10 there. For the Brownlow, our favourite's actually Andrew Brayshaw across with Fremantle, $15. The reason we've gone with him, it's mainly because in that midfield, Nat Fyfe's moved out. There's Sarong and there's also Brody, but Brayshaw takes the cake and sort of the votes. So there's a lot of other players within other midfields around the league where, Petrarca and Oliver, you've got Dunkley, Neal, McCluggage all at Brisbane now, all stealing votes off each other. And then there's a couple other teams with similar, Cripps injury really worries me there. And then obviously suspension as well. So looking into those finer details, as well as Bontempelli, he's also up there within the favourites for the Western Bulldogs, but same sort of thing, stealing votes off him. And then also, depending on how the Western Bulldogs go this season, is another big one. And then our smokies took Miller. So for the Gold Coast Suns, depending on how many games they do win this year, he'll obviously be a main feature in every single game for them. He was their main player of the midfield last year, averaged their most disposals, was the most consistent. So we see him having another big year once again. And for the Coleman, we've got Charlie Curnow going back-to-back, just with how they moved the ball and how he pretty much played a whole season for the first time in a long time. Which was a super positive sign there. So we've got him going back-to-back. And then our smokies, Aaron Norton. So we sort of mentioned about the Western Bulldogs and Bont. But him up forward there, Josh Bruce looks fit. He's also got Rory Lobb to take another defender off of him. It's not going to be 3-on-1 Norton. Jamara, he also has gotten better this year once again, or will have gotten better once again this year. So he takes a defender. So unlike last year where players were able to drop off their opponent and come get Norton, he'll have one-on-one and genuine deep one-on-ones there. Which means, and also seeing how the Western Dogs like to play, which is that run and gun style football, they'll potentially get plenty over the back to him there. That's our quick season predictions. Obviously, for our members, we'll go into it a bit more on other areas, other season futures, everything like that. But look, we'll jump into topic 2, which is team by team season preview and round 1 preview. So we've got Thursday night, Richmond versus Carlton. It looks like we've got the predicted sides here that we got up. Now, I can have a quick look to see if they've got their actual side up as of yet, but it looks like they don't. No, they don't as of yet. So no lineup is currently up for Richmond or Carlton. But the predicted side for round one, judging injury, depending like that, players coming up late, going out late, everything like that. So from the back line, Grimes, Tarrant, Broad, Vlosten, Bolter, Rioli. Through the midfield, McIntosh on the wing, Pickett on the wing, Hopper, Nankervis, Prestier and Martin. And then up forward, Taranto, Revolt, Bolton, Cumberland, Lynch, Morris, Rioli Jr., Baker, Short, Cochin, Sonsi and Ralph Smith on the bench. So a pretty strong squad there. For Richmond, they should be in the top 8 this year. There's no judging that. That is a very similar side with a couple of really good pickups to, I guess, them winning it a couple of years ago. So look for Richmond to be a contender again this year and play. They might take a little bit to click as long as they stay healthy. That is their main thing. Like if Pressure and Martin can get in a full season with the addition of Taranto and Hopper, I mean, you're looking at a super strong squad there, and they've got depth as well. So look for Richmond to go well again in 2023. Moving to Carlton, so from the back, you got Marchbank, Wiedering, Young, Sard, McGovern, Newman. Through the midfield, Akers and Chera on the wing. Cripps, Pittonet, Doherty, Hewitt there. Obviously, Walsh is currently out injured. Through the forwards, Martin, Curnow, Silvani, and then got Fisher, McKay, Kai, Motlop, and on the bench, DeConey, Kennedy, Owies, Dow, Kemp. Once again, I mean, I'm going to harp on it a lot, but it's all about sort of who you can keep healthy and how well your depth looks. I mean, their back line, although strong, can tend to leak a lot of points because a lot of them are further attacking players. But obviously the addition of Akers there on a wing will help out. And then where else can the goals come from other than Curnow and Mackay? How can Motlop go? Fisher, Martin, Silvani. And then can their midfield stay healthy there? Like Cripps, can he stay down the park? Doherty, we know how good he is when he's healthy. Pittonet, their main issue last year was keeping a ruckman healthy, although DeConning did a good job. Obviously, needing their number one ruckman is crucial for them in 2023. We see them finishing around that sort of 7th to 10th spot. I don't think they're going to go... They're going to have a much tougher fixture this year than they did last year because of how they went last year. Unlike in previous seasons, they didn't go too well, so they had a fairly easy schedule. But essentially, that'll be an interesting there. Game preview, I mean, it's hard to judge without seeing the lineups, but middle of last year in round 14, Richmond won 81-66, and then earlier in the year, the first game of the season, 101-76, Carlton's way there. In the year beforehand, Richmond won 105-80, so Richmond won 2 of the last 3 games. We see Richmond winning this one, round 1. It's big for them, obviously, them bowing out the finals last year, etc., etc. We see them bouncing back and starting up the season well, especially because they're fully fit and healthy. Friday, so Geelong versus Collingwood. Super good matchup here to start the season. Looking at Geelong's squad here, Cole Jasny, Henry, Koning, Tui, Stewart, Buse. Through the midfield or on the wings, Duncan and Holmes. And then through the midfield, Dangerfield, Stanley, Guthrie, Blitzars. Up forward, Smith, Cameron, Close, Stengel, Radagalia, and Rowan, obviously with Tom Hawkins currently out at the moment. Guthrie, Atkins, O'Connor, Parfitt, and Tanner Bruin on the bench from GWS there. For the Cats, I mean, looking at that squad, obviously, what's good for them is they're just even across the park. Obviously, they've got a couple of superstars, but their bottom 4 is nearly as good as their top 4 on the day, and they just sync well together, and they know their game style, and we saw it last year in the grand final, them winning it. They may lose a few games early on because they tail off their season. So as we saw last year, they rest players, they bring players in and out, they blood new guys, everything like that. That's where they may drop a few games. But obviously there'll be a powerhouse there. We don't see them going back-to-back mainly because of health and the age of some of those guys through that squad. But that's potentially naive from us. Obviously they sprained it last year and won it by a lot. And peaked at the right time of year. And if they can do that again, they're potentially going to be around that mark. But we just see a lot of other teams improving further than they potentially have and recruiting more than they potentially have as well. Moving on to Collingwood. So this is a good squad here. So you got Quaynor, Moore, Maynard, Nick Dacost, Howe, Pendlebury, Josh Dacos on the wings with side bottom as well. Through the midfield, Chris Mitchell, that's Tom Mitchell, going Darcy Cameron in the ruck. Up forward, Jamie Elliott, new Dan McStay. Up centre half forward, Hoskin Elliott, Ginnivan. Not sure if he's playing this one because of an incident. Myercheck and McCreary, we've got to check on that one. On the bench is Adams, Lipinski, Murphy, Noble, Bobby Hill there. So quite a dangerous bench and pretty even squad there. And obviously that defensive / attacking back line is super scary coming up any squad. If you've got Wayne or Dacos, Maynard and Pendlebury in your back line along with Moore and Howe, that's a super defensive / turning into attack as well. And we see Collingwood being within that sort of 1 to 6 mark this year, depending on if they can keep out of the media. We've said it each year. And then secondly, if they can keep a lot of their players in the park. But you'll see a lot of those young guys go to a next step. And a lot of different goal kickers this season as well. Obviously, Myercheck being the main forward, but you'll see a lot of other different guys being able to kick bags of goals as well. Game preview, this one is at the MCG, I presume. We'll just have a quick look. Yep, it's at the MCG. We actually see Collingwood winning this one. The Cats didn't go back to pre-season, I'm pretty sure, until January. Obviously had a delayed start to pre-season, so they'll take a bit to warm into the season because it's only March. Obviously they're coming off a flag, everything like that. But we see Collingwood winning this one. In terms of everything else, we'll obviously go through that in our preview to our guys. But yeah, we're liking Collingwood in this one, having a look at this being at the MCG. Collingwood want to obviously get off to a good start this year, and Geelong maybe coming back a bit late. It'll take them a bit to warm into the season, but once again, as we mentioned, they'll peak at the right time. Saturday, so first game on a Saturday, 1:45 at Marvel, North versus West Coast. North Melbourne's lineup here. You have Gota, Logue, Young, Zeeble, McKay, Ben McDonald, and on the wings, Scott and Shields. In the midfield, Cunnington, Goldstein, Simpkin, and LDU, so Davies Uniacke. Up forward, Stevenson, Coleman Jones, Zerha, Harry Sheasel, Larkey, and Paul Curtis. On the benches, Powell, Phillips, Taylor, Greenwood, and Tristan Jerry. For North this season, unfortunately, we see a potentially another bottom of the table season for them, or around that bottom of the table mark. Hopefully they bring some depth through and some guys really to improve. Obviously, looking at Simpkin and Davies Uniacke, they're going to have to do a lot of work this year. But unless Larkey takes a huge jump, as well as Zerha, and they can start kicking some goals, that's where we see their main point of difference being between every other squad. But this will be a good matchup. Obviously, two of the bottom teams from the table last year playing off. Moving on to West Coast, their backline: Hearn, Brass, Cole, Shuey, McGovern, and Ginby. And then on the wings, Gaff and Hunt. Through the midfield, Calliot, Sheed, Yo's actually just been announced out. And then Nadanui also won't play as well, so they'll obviously have two players coming to that position. You've got Jai Kelly, West, Witherden, Williams, and SBS, Pedeschi Seaton, sorry. Up forward, you got Hewitt, Allen, Cripps, Ryan, Darling, Waterman, obviously, Josh Kennedy retiring last year. For the Eagles, it'll be how many guys they can blood, and can their core group of players once again find that spark of enjoying football and playing football and defending. Because what happened last year was they just didn't go both ways. A lot of their main guys wanted just to get the footy and do stuff with it, whereas they didn't go the other way and turning it around there. But it'll be another sort of 14th to 18th position for the Eagles this year, we believe. Next game, Port Adelaide versus Brisbane. Super good matchup in Adelaide here. Port Adelaide got Burn, Jones, Cleary, Jonas, Houston, Aaliyah, and Burton. On the wings, Farrell and Bergman. In the midfield, Wines, Lysette, Butters, and Rosie. Up forward, Fantasia, Marshall, Horn Francis, Junior Rioli, Dixon, and Pal Pepper. And on the benches, Boak, Bonner, Drew, Georgiades, Dersma. I actually listened to a podcast with Charlie Dixon. He's super excited about the season coming up. That's a good squad. That's a squad that can finish that sort of 3rd to 6th mark, I reckon. Like, they've got a lot of games in Port Adelaide. They started off terribly last year, so expect them to bounce back this season. Pretty sure they had the same game last season against Brisbane. I think it was up in Brisbane though. Let me have a quick look here. Yep, March 19th, up in Brisbane, 80-69, the Lions won. So this will be an interesting one-on-one matchup here. I can't separate these two squads in this one. We're probably going to stay away from a head-to-head in this one. But the total points may look good because these two teams like to play attacking football. Well, at least I know Brisbane do. For Brisbane, their lineup: Rich, Andrews, Gardner, Colwyn, Payne, Starcevic. On the wings, Bailey and McCluggage. Through the midfield, Jared Berry, McInerney, Neal and Dunkley. Up forward, Rayner, Hitwood, Gunston, Cameron, Tanner, McCarthy. That is one of the best forward lines in the league. Ashcroft on the bench, Lyons, Ainsworth, Zorko and Devon Robertson there. That's a super good squad as well. They should finish 1 to 6. So both these teams should be in the top 8 there. Towards the back end of the season, and this will be a very, very interesting matchup to watch, and very good game to watch as well, with two sort of elite sides playing one another. Melbourne versus the Western Bulldogs, so the grand final matchup from a couple of years ago now. So Melbourne, how do they look? Petty May, with a question mark next to him, or a potential calf injury. Hibbard, Bowie, Lever, Brayshaw, that's Angus. On the wings, Langdon and Hunter. Through the midfield, Viney, Grundy, Oliver Petrarca, Neil Bullen, McDonald, Pickett up forward with Van Rooyen, and Gawn at full forward, and Fritsch. So obviously, big Brodie Grundy coming into the lineup this year. On the bench, Jordan Sparrow, Rivers, Chandler. Melbourne should be looking to compete for another premiership this season. They've got the squad to do it. Nothing much has changed. They've added another ruckman, obviously with Luke Jackson going to Fremantle. There's no reason why they once again shouldn't contend as long as all health and matchups prevail. Against the Dogs, we see them beating the Dogs here. In terms of the Dogs, it's their defense once again, which scares us. Ed Richards, Jones obviously coming back. Keith, Williams, Gardner and Dale. On the wings, McRae and Bailey Smith. Through the midfield, Libber, Treloar, Bont and English in the ruck. West, Lobb, Ugelhagen, Waitman, Norton and Vandermeer up forward. Joe Hannison, Sam Darcy, Caleb Daniel, McLean and DeRay on the bench for them there. The Dogs, if they can show us they can defend across the first 10 rounds of football, we can put them in the finals. But until they show us they can defend, we know they can score, we know they can run, we know they can get plenty of the footy. But can they defend? There's the biggest question we have for them in 2023. And it'll be all dependent on that. And if they get blown out by Melbourne in this first game of the season because of defence, that won't shock us at all. Moving on to the next game, Gold Coast versus Sydney at Metricon. So Gold Coast lineup is Lemons, Collins, Long, Ballard, Graham and Farah. Brandon Ellis on the wings with Elijah Hollins. In the middle, Miller, Anderson, Rowell and Witts. Pretty good midfield there. Up forward, Jeffrey, Chol, Ainsworth, Rosas, King and Holman. On the bench is Swallow, Lukosius, Flanders, Weller and Constable. The Gold Coast Suns, I mean, the worry for them is the practice matches. They didn't look all that great being able to go back and forth and win games of football. But they've got the squad there to do it. I think it might be another building year for them. Hopefully that black backline can click together. Obviously Sam Collins one-on-one, Caleb Graham one-on-one, Charlie Ballard one-on-one, super promising. Obviously Long back there, as well as Lemons using the footy out of there, as well as you got Jai Farah's hardness, and then you got the runners out in the wings there. So if Gold Coast can make Metricon a tough stadium to come into, they can win a few games and potentially play finals. But if they can't win those games at home when teams come up here, that's where we see the struggle will be when they have to travel and they have to make sure they're winning games down there or wherever else they go to. For the Swans, obviously coming off that big defeat in the grand final, kept most of the same team together. You got Rampy, McCartan, Fox, Lloyd, McCartan. That's Paddy, so Paddy and Tom. And Blakey, Stevens on the wing with McInerney, Mills in the middle, Hickey, Warner, Parker, up forward, Heaney, Reid, Hayward, Clark, Franklin, Papley. On the bench, Rowbottom, McDonald, Florent, Goulden, Lavins. Super squad, nothing much has changed. If they can all stay healthy, they'll once again compete for a premiership, as we already mentioned earlier in the season. And if they can come up to Gold Coast and have a nice big win in the first round, it'll give them plenty of confidence there. They'll once again be another top 8 side. GWS versus Adelaide at Giant Stadium on the Sunday, 1:10. Going to the Giant squad here, Cumming, Taylor, Iden, Haynes, Davis and Whitfield. And then on the wings, you got Perryman and Aish. In the midfield, Kelly, Bruce, Caniglio and Green. Up forward, Brent Daniels, Himmelberg, Lloyd, Bedford, Hogan, Green. Toby, that is. Finn Callaghan on the bench, Ward, Weir, Kennedy and Riccardi. For GWS, it's really, can they find a game plan that works for them? They looked like they were going to blow teams out of the water with some of the scores they were putting on last year, but then they couldn't defend. But then they've got Sam Taylor down there, Phil Davis and Nick Haynes, all players who can defend. And then you've got players who can run off as well. What is their identity this year? Their first, 6 rounds will tell us what their identity is, and then we'll be able to get a better read on them. But right now, it's hard to judge off last year and then also the practice matches of what their identity is. And you go through every other team. There's sort of 4 to 6 teams that don't have identities that it's hard to say if they're going to play finals football because they don't have an identity. But that's essentially what we want to look at across that first sort of 6 rounds or so. Moving on to Adelaide. So their backline, Hamill, Butts, McElhaney, Murray, Duday and Smith. Quite a young back line there. On the wings, Dawson and Hinge. In the midfield, Laird, Sam Berry, that is, Keys and O'Brien. Up forward, Rankin, so exciting there. Fogarty, Thilthorpe, Rashali, Walker and McAdams, so quite an exciting forward line there as long as they can get into them. Sloan, Saligio, Schoenberg, Jones and Worrell on the bench there. Once again, Adelaide might sit in that 12 to 16 range this season, but they potentially grow a bit of defensive resolve and improve that back line once again. They've obviously got an exciting forward line so they can kick some scores this season as well, with obviously getting it straight out of the midfield, but it's when it goes down the other end that's the worry for us there. Next game is Hawthorn versus Essendon. So the Hawthorn squad, Hardwick, Sicily, Blank, Day, Frost and CJ. Mackenzie and Amon on the wings. Ward, Reeves, Newcomb, Wingard in the middle there, so quite a young midfield. Up forward, Moore, Kaczynski, McDonald, Green, Meek and Bruce, so a mixture of old and young in the forward line there. And then on the bench, Warple, Impey, Scrimshaw, McInnes and Woodell. We see this being maybe a bottom 4 season for Hawthorn, but once again, they'll win some games that they shouldn't win, and they'll get up for games just out of the emphasis of teams potentially not coming in to beat them. And obviously playing Essendon first round, this is really a 50-50 one, and we're going to probably stay away from this one. We'll just be looking at maybe the points, depending on how the weather looks, as well as maybe some more player props and maybe some goals getting kicked in this one by big forwards. So Essendon's lineup, Ridley, Zerk Thatcher, Laverde, Redmond, Kelly, McGrath. On the wings, Martin and Heppel. Shield in the midfield with Draper, Merritt and Parrish, so some plenty of disposals there. Perkins, Wiedemann, Guelphy up forward with Stringer, Wright and Langford, but Stringer will be out because of an injury. Settlefield, Caldwell, Jones, Hind and McDonald, Tim and Woody on the bench. Good to see him there. As we said, that game's 50-50. St Kilda vs Fremantle for us. We've got Fremantle this one, travelling over to Marvel. They've actually been okay at Marvel of late. Of late is towards the back end of the season. They played super well there, knowing they had to play there in the finals potentially. For St Kilda, Patton, Howard, Wilkie, Jack Sinclair, Battle and Clark. On the wings, Mackenzie and Bradley Hill. Through the midfield, Crouch, Gresham, Steele and Marshall. I believe Gresham might be injured though. Up forward, Windhager, Owens, Wood, Higgins, Memory and Butler. On the bench, Zane Cordy, Zach Jones, Ross. I think he might be injured as well, off the top of my head. Wanganeen, Malera and Philippou. So, look, St Kilda, I think this could be a bottom 4 season for them. Unfortunately, just across the park, that identity, but Ross Lyon will be able to get him up for specific games, especially this one against Fremantle. He knows a lot of those players, but we're just seeing Fremantle have the stronger team in this one. From the back line for Freo, Ryan, Cox, Chapman, Clark, Pearce and Young. On the wings, O'Driscoll and Henry. Through the midfield, Brayshaw, Amira, Sarong and Darcy. Up forward, Fife, Jackson, Frederick, Schultz, Taverner and Walters. All those 6 players can stay healthy. That is an exciting forward line, along with that midfield. On the bench, I miss Brody on the bench, Walker, Swikowski, and Erasmus, if I'm saying that correctly. But that's an exciting squad. That back line's been together for a while now. Obviously, Alex Pearce now captain. A lot of those guys been able to move the ball well, and they know each other, and they can lock down defensively. And it's the way their backs, so their midfield works both ways, which is really exciting for Fremantle this season. That is, I guess, topic 2 done and dusted. What we can move now into is topic 3, which is the 2022-2023 most consistent players. So what we've done here is just compiled a list of players from each side that we will continually probably back, have a look at their stats week to week, look at their last season stats, teams when they come up against teams, who they played well against, etc, etc. So for Adelaide, we've got Roy Leard, Ben Keys, Jordan Dawson, Tex Walker, Fogarty and McAdam. We'll also potentially include Rashali there if he stays healthy. But essentially, Leard averaged 32 disposals last year, had 25 plus disposals in 19 of 20 games, and 30 plus disposals in 16 of 20 games there. Ben Keys might play a bit more time up forward, but essentially averaged 26 plus disposals last year, had 25 plus in 16 of 22 games, had 20 plus in 86% of his games there as well. For Jordan Dawson, 24 plus disposals per game on average, 20 plus disposals in 86% of his game, 25 and 10 of 22 games there on the wing. Up forward, Tex Walker scored most of their goals with 47, had 1 plus goal in 18 of 18 games, 2 plus goals in 12 of 18 games, and 3 plus goals in half of his games, so 9 of 18 games last year. For Fogarty, 33 goals last year, 13 plus anytime, or 13 goals, or 13 times anytime goal scorer, so 1 plus goal in 13 of 17 games, 2 plus goals in 11 of 17 games, so his 2 plus goals looked pretty good there. And McAdam had 23 goals last year, had 1 plus goal in 12 of 15 games, 2 plus goals in 8 of 15 games there. How their obviously practice match looked against the Eagles, they won 111 to 52. Fogarty had 4, Keys had 4 playing up forward, Tex Walker 3, Berry 2, Laird 2, and then it sort of drops off from there. In terms of disposals, Laird had 32, Dawson 26, and Hinge on the wing there, and Smith had 23 and 22. Next team is Brisbane. So you got Lockie Neal, Hugh McCluggage, Dunkley, Ashcroft, Rich, Lyons, Cameron Danaher, Hipwood. So Neal, he averaged 29 disposals last season, had 25 plus in 21 of 25 games, 30 plus in 14 of 25 games. McCluggage averaged 24 disposals last year, had 25 plus in 14 of 24 games, but had 20 plus in 88% of games last season. For Rich, averaged 23 plus disposals. He actually had 20 plus in 68% of games, only 25 plus disposals in 11 of 22 games. For Jared Lyons, he averaged 22 plus disposals last year, had 20 plus in 73% of games last year. Their goal kickers, so Cameron led their goal kicking with 54. He had 1 plus goal in 23 of 25 games, and then 2 plus goals in 16 of 25, and 3 plus goals in 11 of 25 there. Joe Danaher, he kicked 39 goals last year, had 1 plus goal in 15 of 19 games, but his 2 plus goals looks good with 13 of 19 games there. Zach Bailey was next with 37, Lincoln McCarthy 35, Eric Hipwood 25, and then Cam Rayner 24 there as well. In their practice match, they beat Geelong 91 to 45. McCarthy had 2, Danaher 2, Bailey 2, and Darcy Fort 2. Dunstan actually kicked 1-3. In terms of disposals, Dunkley had 31, Neal had 31, Will Ashcroft 26, so he might be lower in the season, so he's a good one to watch. And McCluggage 26, Harris Andrews actually from the back 23 as well, Rich 20 disposals. For Carlton, you got Paddy Cripps, Sam Walsh, Doherty, Sard, Hewitt, Akers, Chera, Kennedy, Curnow and Mackay. Walsh, he averaged 32 last year, had 20 plus in 100% of games, 25 plus and 20 of 20 games, and then 30 plus and 13 of 20 games. So once he's back and healthy, look for him to be dominating the touches. Doherty averaged 28, Cripps 28, Sard 21, Hewitt 28, Chera 23, Kennedy 24. So for Doherty, he had 25 plus in 19 of 22 games, and then Cripps 15 of 21. Adam Sard had 76% of his games 20 plus. Hewitt had 20 plus in all his games, 25 and 14 of 15 games, so quite a good record there, so watch out for Hewitt. Kennedy, he had 20 plus in 94% of his games as well. Their goal kickers, obviously Curnow winning the Coleman, 64 goals, 1 plus goal in 21 of 22 games, 2 plus goals in 17 of 22 games, 3 plus goals in 11 of 22. For Mackay, he had 45 goals, 1 plus goal in 18 of 19 games, 2 plus goals in 14 of 19 games as well. And then the list goes on with Cripps, Fisher, Silvani, Durden and Owies. Their practice match saw Doherty had 34, Hewitt 26, Chera 23, Kennedy 23 and Akers 20 there. Goal scorers were Curnow 2, Silvani 1, Motlop 1, Kennedy, Fisher, Akers all with 1 as well. For Collingwood, we like Nick Dacos, Crisp, Pendlebury, Tagoe, Mitchell, Adams, Myerchick, Ginnivan and Elliott, all players to watch for us. Nick Dacos averaged 25 plus last year, Cripps 23 plus, Pendlebury 23 plus, Lipinski 22 plus, Josh Dacos 21, Taylor Adams when healthy 22 plus, and Tagoe when he ran through the midfield 20 plus disposals there. Nick Dacos had 20 plus in 91% of his games, and then 25 plus in 12 of 22. Not getting caught out this season with 25 plus for many of the Collingwood players. Look at a lot of their 20 plus. Even then, it's sort of a lower percentage, so they're a real sort of toss in the market there, just because of how they share the ball and how they move the footy. So they're not really a chip it around side. They're obviously get the footy and go. And then try score off the back of that going, not sort of chipping it around, etc., etc. Their goal kickers fairly even. Myerchick had 41, Ginnivan had 40, Jamie Ellett 28, Oliver Henry 21, Darcy Cameron 20, Tagoe 18. Myerchick had 1 plus goal in 21 of 23 games. Ginnivan had 19 of 23 games, 1 plus goal, and then about half of that, 2 plus goals. The interesting one there is Jamie Elliott, 1 plus goal in 15 of 19 games, with 2 plus goals in 10 of 19 games there. So his 2 plus goals potentially look sometimes good with him getting the 3rd or 4th defender in line. Next, obviously, is how they went in their practice match. So 106 to 100 there against Hawthorn. Myerchick kicked 2-3, McStay kicked 2, Elliott 2, Adams 2. And then a few 1 goal scorers as well. Disposals to Tagoe 31, Tom Mitchell 28, Josh Dacos 26, Cripps 24, Lipinski 22, Adams 22. Nick Dacos only had 17, Pendlebury only 11 as well there off half back. Next side is Essendon, so looking at Zach Merritt, Parrish, Shield, Ridley, Redmond, Wright and Martin. Zach Merritt averaged 30, Parrish 31 plus, Heppel 21 plus, Shield 22 plus, Nick Hine 20 plus, Redmond 21 plus, Andy McGrath 21 plus as well. Merritt had 25 plus in 16 of 19 games and 30 plus in 10 of 19. Parrish had 25 plus in 13 of 16 games, 30 plus in 10 of 16, had 20 plus in 94% of games. And then it sort of drops off quite quickly there for them. In terms of goals scored, Peter Wright, 53 goals for the season, 1 plus goal in 18 of 22 games, 2 plus goals in 16 of 22 games, so his 2 plus goals potentially always looks good, but it drops off pretty quickly there with players not playing enough or scoring enough there. In the practice match, they lost to St Kilda, 67 to 32. Peter Wright 1-4 on the day, and then a few 1 goal kickers, and then a lot of missed shots there. Ridley had 27, McGrath 25, Setterfield 25, Merritt 23, Martin 22, Kelly 22. Sheila had 19. It looks like Parrish didn't play there. Moving on to Fremantle. We like Andrew Brayshaw, Will Brodie, Sarong O'Meara, Clark Young, Schultz, Taberner, Jackson Fife, all players to watch this season. Brayshaw had 29 plus average 29 plus disposals last season, had 25 plus in 19 of 22 games, so that's a good one to watch there. Brody averaged 26, actually had 25 plus in 16 of 22 games. Sarong 25 plus in 14 of 20 games and 100% in 20 plus in all games. Averaged 26 last season, and then a lot of 21 plus or 20 plus disposal guys there. Ryan, Clark, Young, Mundy, obviously not playing this year, and Aish, and also Akers, who's moved along. Their goal scorers, the big one for them is who steps up into the Lob's role. Obviously, Lob moving on. So you got Schultz at 30, Frederick 28, Walters 25, Taverner, can he stay healthy at 23, Hamity and can Nat 5 stay healthy, can he kick bags, etc, etc. Their practice match, they beat Port 92 to 61, Brody 36, Brayshaw 36, Sarong 32. So some big numbers there. Clark 24, Cox 23, O'Meara 22. Goals scored, Fife had 3-2, Tabernar 2, Sturt 2, Schwabkowski 2, and Tracy 2 as well. O'Meara and Cox chipped into 1 apiece. Lockie Schultz had 0-4 on the day, and Sarong 0-2. Gold Coast, so Took Miller, Anderson, Alice, Swallow, Long, Chol, Casbolt, King, all players to watch for us. Miller 28 plus on average last season, 25 plus in 16 of 22 games. Anderson 25 plus in 14 of 21 games. Then drops off pretty quickly there. Chol was their biggest goal scorer, 44. Casbolt next, 35. Rankin, who steps into his role. Chol had 1 plus goal in 20 of 22 games. Casbolt 17 of 21. 2 plus for each of them in 12 of 22, 11 of 21. We'll also include this in our show notes, something like that as well. Looking at their practice match, so they got beaten by GWS 122 to 77. So Jeffrey had 2, Casbolt 1, Ainsworth, Witts, Davies, King, Chol, Lukosius, Berry, Fiorini, and Titsas 1 apiece there. Disposals, Flanders had 30, Ralph 24, McPherson 22. Obviously, Miller did not play in the midfield there. Next one is Geelong. So looking at Guthrie, Dangerfield, Duncan, Stewart, Parfitt, Hawkins, Cameron, and Stengel. It's pretty even across the board, very similar to Collingwood, the way they play. There's well spread. Stewart was one of the most consistent, we would say. Guthrie as well at that 20 plus, but often his line's set a bit higher. But it's more of the goals scored for these guys. So Hawkins and Cameron 67 and 65 by the end of the season. Hawkins 1 plus goal in 24 of 25, 2 plus in 19 and 25. Cameron 21 of 24 games had 1 plus, 2 plus in 17 of 24. Stengel there at 53, 1 plus in 21 of 25, 2 plus in 17 of 25. So a lot of goals getting kicked there between those 3 guys. How they looked in the practice match, Myers was the leading possession getter 23, Guthrie 22, Dangerfield 20, Stengel 22, Stewart, Brune, Guthrie, Parfitt and Tui all had just below 20. Goals, obviously sort of well spread, but they only scored 45 points, so not a lot there. Also no Cameron, no Hawkins. As we said, they'll take a bit to sort of lead into the season there for the Cats. GWS, looking at Kelly, Caniglio, Green, Ward, Perryman, Whitfield, Cumming, Hogan and Green. Kelly, he had 25 plus in 15 of 21 games. Caniglio 9 of 21 games, but then it drops pretty quickly. Our player to watch there is Tom Green. Apparently reports were coming out, he had 50 in one of the practice matches. So looking at Tom Green to brain it this season, potentially looking better than ever. Also Toby Green up forward as well, 37 goals off only 15 games. 1 plus goal in 14 of 15 games, 2 plus goals in 11 of 15 games there. So he's the one to watch in that forward line, as well as Jesse Hogan, 35 for the season, 1 plus goal in 16 of 18, 2 plus goals in 12 of 18 there as well. How they went in their practice match, Riccardi kicked 4, Himmelberg 3, Hogan 2, Peatling 2, Lloyd 2, Callahan 2 as well. Toby Green was only needed for 1-1. Not sure if he played minimal time there. In terms of the touches, Kelly had 36, Tom Green 34, Ash 30, Cumming 25, Whitfield 25, Caniglio 24 there. So plenty of touches against the Suns for them. For Hawthorn, Sicily, Newcombe, Moore, Wingard, Eamon and Bruce. Obviously a lot of their players have moved on. The 1-1 is Sicily, so 20 plus disposals in 95% of games last season, but not a lot of 25 plus. So he lived in that 20 to 25 range last season. How their practice match went, Green kicked 3, Moore 2, McDonald 2, Kaczynski kicked 1-4. Touches, Warple had 30, Newcomb 27, McKenzie 24, Eamon on the wing 23, Sicily 22, lived in that 20 to 25 range. Will Day 20 there as well. Melbourne, Oliver, Petrarca, Brayshaw, Viney, Langdon, May, Fritsch, Gawn, Pickett. Petrarca averaged 28 plus, Oliver averaged 32 plus. They had a lot of games with 30 plus, a lot of games with 25 plus is the easiest way to say it. But the one we're always looking is Brayshaw off halfback when he plays there. In terms of goals, it was Fritsch leading them with 55. Had 1+ goal in every game last season, 2+ goals on 17 and 24 games. Their practice match, how that went, Gawn had 3, McDonald 3, Grundy 3. So your 2 ruckmen are kicking 3 goals apiece. Spargo 2, and then it's sort of quite a lot of 1-goal scorers. They beat Richmond 121 to 71 there. Disposals, Petrarca had 32, Oliver 21, Hunter on the wing 26, Landon on the wing 26, May, Bullen, Brayshaw 22 apiece and 21. Harms also had 21 there. North Melbourne players to watch: Simpkin, LDU, Cunnington, Shield, Scott, Larkey, Zerha. Mainly Simpkin and LDU looking at 25 plus for them. And then goal scorers, we're sort of staying away from North Melbourne until we see sort of deep in the season. Larkey did kick 3 in the practice match though. Simpkin had 31, Cunnington 27, McDonald off the back line 26, LDU had 18 there. For Port Adelaide players to watch: Wines, Boak, Eamon, Rosie, Houston, Butters, Dixon and Marshall. So Wines 25 plus and 17 of 21 games. Boak 13 of 21 games there, 25 plus. Eamon obviously moved on. So he's out of there. Rosie, always players to watch as well, but they're very much spread throughout that midfield with different players going in there at all different times. Their goal scorers: Todd Marshall 45 last year. Obviously Dixon not playing a lot of, playing 12 games, scoring in 11 of those 12 games, but just not on the park enough. Pal Pepper, George Adams, they spread the load a fair bit with a lot of their goal scorers coming out of the midfield as well. Wines had 26 for their practice match against Freo. Houston 25, Bergman 25, Rosie 25, Dursma 24, Horn Francis 21. Goal scorers: Evans was 2-1, Pal Pepper 2, McKenzie 1, Dixon 1, and a couple other 1-goal scorers there. Richmond: Short, Prestia, Rioli, Hopper, Toronto, Vlosten, Martin, Lynch and Bolton. So very similar to a lot of other squads, a lot of 20 to 25 disposal getters, not many 25 plus. It would have been Short and Rioli owning that park. Presti just wasn't on the field enough last season. Their goal scorers: Lynch, Bolton and Revolt, and then a couple of other sort of lower mark goal scorers as well. In their practice match, a lot of one. No player kicked above a goal, so plenty of 1-goal scorers there. In terms of touches, Bake had 36, Taranto 33, Rioli 26, Hopper 23, Vlosten 20. That is for Richmond. St Kilda: Sinclair, Crouch, Ross, Steele, Clark, King and Higgins. So Sinclair was their main one, as well as Crouch, 25 plus in 17 to 22 games. Crouch 15 to 21 games. Ross and Steele 13 to 21 games and 13 of 18 games. Both Sinclair, Crouch, Ross and Steele all 20 plus and 90% of their games. And in the practice match, Owens kicked 3, Higgins kicked 3, and a few 1-goal scorers. Touches: Crouch 34, Wood 28, Clark 24, Marshall 24, Wanganeen, Malera 23, Sinclair 21, Wilkie 20. For Sydney: Parker, Mills, Lloyd, Warner, Goulden, Franklin, Papley, Hayward and Heaney. Parker 20, it's very similar to a lot of other squads, a lot of sort of 20 to 25 disposal getters there. Franklin was their highest goal scorer. Heaney and Hayward as well chipped in, but plenty of those guys getting 2 plus in specific games, a lot of them kicking 1 in each game, so they're spread around the goal kickers there at Sydney. Their practice match against Carlton, 97 to 54. Goulden had 3 goals as long as 45 touches. Franklin had 2, McLean 2, Cunningham 2, Reid 2. Heaney kicked 1-3. And in terms of touches, as we mentioned, Goulden 45, but Parker had 27, Warnock 24, and then it drops off to sort of 15 to 20 range. For the Bulldogs: McRae, Bont, Liver, Smith, Trelaw, Dale, Norton, Lobb, and JUH. So Ulehagen there. Waitman, McRae 30 plus all the time, 25 plus and 20 of 22. Bailey Dale 17 of 22, 25 plus. Trelaw 15 of 21. Dunkley 14 of 22, but has now moved on. So who will take his spot there? Norton obviously kicked a lot up forward. Waitman as well. Bont kicked a few. 1 plus goal in 18 and 22 games. So Bont anytime is a good look. In their practice match, Norton had 4. Ugelhagen had 32. Scott unfortunately injured but kicked 3. Jones 2. Darcy 2. Libba 2. Bont 2. In a high scoring match against North Melbourne, 143 to 85 there. Disposals, Libba 33. McRae 33. Dale 31. Smith 30, Trelaw 29, Bont 27. So those top 6 guys, always ones to watch there. Last but not least, the Eagles, Kelly, Yo, Sheed, Gaff, Shuey, Hearn, Barras, Darling. It's really a mixed bag there. Not a lot of great stats from last season with plenty of guys in and out. But in their practice match, Cripps had 2-2, Allen 1-3. Yo obviously injured at the moment now. Duggan had 25, McGovern 25, Hearn 25, so a lot of guys at the back there. Sheed, Shuey and Yo had 20 apiece, but then it drops off pretty quickly there. So, debrief. What we will have next week is a quick synopsis of all those in the show notes. So after we go game by game this week, we'll have it for our obviously members this week, and then we'll include it game by game next week as well as a bit of stats. But that is all for this evening. Feel free to like, follow and subscribe on Facebook, Instagram, Spotify, Apple, YouTube, all that good stuff. We'll be getting at tips for these games tomorrow morning. So if you'd like to get a part of it, jump on to jellyman.co. But that is all for this evening. Thank you for listening in.